He-Man and the two halves of the Sword of Grayskull. A powerful figure paused at the edge of the jungle that, until that day, had been his home. He-Man, the greatest warrior of his tribe, said goodbye to his people. Perhaps he would have preferred to stay with them, but he had to fulfill a noble mission. There are evil forces on our planet Eternia, He-Man told his people. They intend to take control of the legendary Castle Grayskull, a marvelous place. If we want to live in peace, I must leave and face those forces. Farewell. For a long time, the outside world had been a mystery to He-Man's tribe, even though they had heard fantastic tales about the mysterious Castle Grayskull. He-Man was the first of his people to venture into those steep cliffs and devastated valleys. His homeland was already fading into distant mists when a cry for help reached his ears. Upon looking over the valley, He-Man realized that his courage and the strength he had developed in the jungle were needed. Like a bronze lightning bolt, He-Man leapt from the cliff onto his scaly enemy. His powerful fingers sank deeply into the creature's hide. But he was not facing this beast alone. He-Man noticed the woman making magical gestures and attacking the creature with mystical energy beams. She's a sorceress, he thought, but the beast was unfazed by her magic, unlike with He-Man's strength. The beast fled, defeated, while the sorceress of Castle Grayskull caught her breath. "Your strength, your courage," she said, "make you the legendary hero who must inherit the treasures I have guarded all these years. They were created centuries before the Great Wars by the scientists of Eternia." Inside the ancient ruins, the sorceress gave He-Man the garments and weapons she protected. "They will make you even stronger. Use them wisely, above all, to defend Castle Grayskull." He-Man set out once again on his mission, riding that strange vehicle which was a combination of a battering ram, a catapult, and a space transport device. Miles away from the castle, a valley caught his attention. He would make that hollow his new home and headquarters. With the suit that granted him superhuman strength, He-Man got to work with no other tool than the power of his fists. But while He-Man was building his dwelling, evil eyes were watching Teela, the warrior goddess, while she gave her battle unicorn something to drink. "Her beauty has no equal in all of Eternia," growled the simian-like beast-man. "I'm starting to believe that she really is a goddess." "Soon she will be more than that," whispered his master, Skeletor. "Soon she will be my bride." But capturing the warrior goddess was not going to be an easy task. She fought like a demon, for in her body dwelt the spirits of many ancestral champions. Only Skeletor's energy sword was finally able to overcome her and leave her unconscious after freezing her valiant steed. "Take her to Castle Grayskull," Skeletor ordered his minion, Beastman. "But be careful. I don't want my future wife to end up harmed." As night fell, Skeletor and Beastman had brought their sleeping captive to Castle Grayskull, an ancient fortress whose origins no one knew. A voice, belonging to the omnipresent spirit of the castle, warned them, "Back off. No one shall possess the secrets and treasures of Grayskull. Begone." Another warrior watched in silence, while the Jawbridge disregarded the warning, and forced the Mandible Bridge open with a combination of his magic and the power inside of Tila, which came from the ancient champions of Eternia. Upon penetrating the gloomy castle, Skeletor and his accomplice did not notice another warrior who disappeared through the shadows in a heavily armed chariot. "I challenge you, spirit of the castle," shouted Skeletor. "Your many secrets shall be mine. I possess half of the mystic Sword of Power. Soon I will obtain the other half, hidden within your walls. Then I will have all the power, and none of your deadly traps will be able to stop me." "When I join the two halves of the Sword of Power," exclaimed Skeletor, "the magical fires, created by scientists and sorcerers of old, will blaze forth once more." And he remembered. There was a time when I lived in another dimension, inhabited by others of my race. But when the Great Wars opened a hole in the dimensional wall, I was hurled into this world. When I have completed the Sword of Power, I will reopen that hole and bring my people here to conquer this dimensional world. After tying the unconscious warrior goddess to a stone block, Beastman searched the castle with animal cunning. Finally, he found an ancient parchment on which a map was drawn. The map appeared to have been traced in a strange red type of ink, and it displayed many strange symbols that only Skeletor could understand. "It shows the way to a sword of fire," he shouted. Following the map, Skeletor led the way toward a secret passage. He-Man was finishing building his dwelling when he saw a vehicle approaching. "What brings the famous Man-at-Arms to my humble home?" he asked sarcastically. Man-at-Arms, who belonged to a people that dominated all weapons, described to him what he had witnessed. "If Skeletor gains control of the castle, he could use its secrets to conquer Eternia," he said gravely. "And I shudder just thinking about the fate that awaits the warrior goddess." "If we fight side by side," proposed Man-at-Arms, "it will be much easier to defeat Skeletor and his minion." "You would make a valuable companion," He-Man replied. "But if the threat is as great as you say, I cannot afford to waste time trying to reach Castle Grayskull in a vehicle with wheels." Before Man-at-Arms could utter another word, He-Man activated the space jump device of his battle ram. Moments later, he disappeared, only to reappear in another place. Meanwhile, inside the castle, Skeletor and Beastman had reached the end of the secret passage and come up against a rusted metal door. But when they touched the door, the spirit of the castle cursed them and released its phantom demons. The claws and fangs of Beastman passed right through the specters, but Skeletor's flashing blade did not take long to account for them, disintegrating them. "I have returned to defeat you, spirit of the castle," said Skeletor in a hoarse voice. "Now I shall take possession of your greatest treasure." But not even Beastman's brute strength could bring the door down. "Back, Simeon!" ordered Skeletor, as he forced his way through the door with his flashing sword, slicing through it as if it were butter. And just as the door had been opened, a tremendous noise was heard coming from outside. "Go see what that is," ordered Skeletor. And Beastman, obediently, bounded away in great strides down the dark corridor. Outside the castle, He-Man was using his vehicle like a battering ram to try to force his way in. "He-Man!" roared Beastman, while he gripped the castle's laser cannon and fired a deadly ray at his enemy. But He-Man's force field harness repelled the blast. "Is that the best you can do, brainless gorilla?" He-Man mocked. "If that's all you've got, then I have nothing to worry about." Perhaps He-Man didn't have to worry about the cannon piercing his force field, but he hadn't counted on Beastman choosing another target. The vehicle that was not protected by that force barrier. As he leaped out of his vehicle, the force field from He-Man's harness accidentally disconnected. And now, "The killing shot!" roared Beastman, aiming the laser cannon at his apparently defenseless victim. Inside the tunnel, Skeletor saw the brilliant object. Its broken blade seemed to call to him. Anxiously, he took the brilliant object. Eagerly, he joined the two halves between his scaly hands and felt the incredible energies of the ancient object. The steel blazed with green splendor. "The Sword of Power restored," he exclaimed. "With this I am invincible. There is nothing impossible for me. Nothing!" Gripping the weapon, he set off with a thirst for combat. Before Beastman could carry out his threat, his attack was interrupted by the timely arrival of Man-at-Arms, who, while firing his flamethrower weapon, shouted, "I'll take care of him, He-Man!" He-Man approached the castle and pulled with all his strength, pushing his natural power to the limit. Finally, he managed to open the mandible bridge, which descended with a grinding screech. Flexing his muscles, he said, "Now, let's rescue Teela and stop the evil Skeletor." Discarding his damaged force field harness, He-Man rushed down the castle elevator to confront Skeletor, who was waiting for him below. With a simple movement of the power sword, Skeletor caused many objects in the castle to come to life and ordered them to attack his enemy. Without the protection offered by his force field, He-Man tried to defend himself from the onslaught of animated objects. But these, animated by the power sword, kept coming and coming. "This is only the beginning," Skeletor boasted. But suddenly, Skeletor's moment of triumph was cut short when a beautiful figure appeared before him, glowing with a green light, just like the energies of the power sword. "You have misused the power sword," said the sorceress, and with magical gestures, she snatched the power sword from Skeletor's hands, once again separating it into two halves. Instantly, the objects that had been attacking He-Man fell lifeless to the ground. A moment later, the sorceress returned He-Man his force field armor completely restored, and then she disappeared. having lost his most powerful weapon, Skeletor fled to the roof of the castle, where Beastman and Man-at-Arms were locked in mortal combat. He-Man saw that Teela had awakened and freed herself from her bonds. Then, the two warriors were liberated and rushed up the castle elevator at full speed. Immediately, they joined the fight on the rooftop. "Mercy!" pleaded Skeletor and Beastman as they saw themselves desperately outnumbered. With this plea, the battle came to an end. Together, He-Man, Man-at-Arms, and Teela watched as their defeated enemies fled toward the horizon. Then, upon seeing an apparition at the foot of the castle, they descended from the rooftop. "From this day forward," said the sorceress, "the mandible bridge of the castle shall only open by inserting the two halves of the power sword into this lock. In this way, the castle will be protected from ever falling again into evil hands. And to prevent these two halves from ever falling into wicked hands again, I shall hide them in secret places." Having said this, she vanished once more in a cloud of green mist. In truth, you are the masters of the universe, whose destiny is to protect my secrets against the forces of evil, said the spirit of the castle. It is only just that you receive at the very least a small reward. This reward materialized in the form of a white unicorn as pure as snow, which galloped up the hill to reunite with its mistress. Do you think this will be the last time we hear about those two, or about the power sword? Asked Man-at-Arms. I doubt it, replied He-Man. But as he watched the sun rise brightly, it seemed to him that this was a good omen for Eternia and the masters of the universe.